Okay, this video is about virtual keys. The first video that I talked about was where you had virtual keys, but it was contained where you're not able to use the camera view. It was static. This one, you're able to use camera view, and your character and your buttons move along with the character, as well as the virtual keys. They stay in place as well. So I'm going to talk about that. So right now you're able to move using the keyboard. Alright, and then these buttons here are virtual keys, so you're not able to click on these only with the Android device, but you're able to click on this one because it's going to be a pause button, and you're able to click and pause it and go back and resume. Now, I tried to make a virtual key with the pause, and when I clicked on it on my Android device, it would just blink for a couple seconds and it wouldn't go to the next room. It wouldn't pause or nothing. So you actually have to make the pause button a mouse click, and I'll show you everything here, how I did this. And like I said, virtual keys are very I was trying to find articles online to research it and find out how to do it, and there was just not enough information. There was quite a bit, but there was some information that was not available online. I couldn't find, so I just experimented with it and got something to work. So virtual keys can be very difficult. Number one, you have to basically, resize them depending on your screen and your port size. That's what I researched. Then they would move, and then you put the coordinates in, and it wouldn't work exactly. So I'll show you how I did everything. Okay, so in the object right button, and online it said to create in the event, and then the coded sheet, you would have this information right here. This was presented online, but I would not do a create because I noticed when I pressed the pause button and went back to the room, the virtual key was gone. And the reason why I know the virtual key was gone is because of this line right here. Online it said to use a virtual key _ show, and then you would put in the name of the virtual key. So I gave this virtual key R key, which means right key. So when I made it available, because it was graded out, it became visible. So then this is X and Y coordinates. This 400 and 400, this is the size of the button, and then I gave the button V key _ right. So you're able to move on the keyboard using the right key, and basically this information right here converts your keyboard into virtual key for your Android device. Alright, so when I made this virtual key visible, this will allow me to see where the virtual key is at on screen, so I can mess with the coordinates, because these coordinates here do not match these coordinates here on the draw event. So in the draw event, there's different coordinates that stabilize the button in its location, and I used X view for this. So you have to use the draw event, and you also have to use the draw GUI. And the draw GUI, you're using the views as well. Because if you don't use the views, it's not going to work correctly. Because it just doesn't work correctly. You have to make sure that you're using the same views as you are in the draw event. Otherwise, the GUI layer is not going to pop up on screen. So, all right. So now I made the virtual key visible. So let me show you that real quick. I gotta resize this window. See, now you see it visible. So this is called the virtual key, and so this is separate from the button in the back. So when you click on, when you press the button on your Android device, you're actually clicking on this square box here, not this button right here in the back. Okay, so when you're moving, this virtual key moves as well. See, it's moving on the screen. Then when you click on the, when you're clicking on the pause button and go back to it, it kind of blinks away for a couple seconds and comes back. But like I said, this has to be a mouse click, not a virtual key, because like I said, the pause didn't work for virtual keys. It just blinked on screen. It didn't actually go to the next room. That's why this button has to be a mouse click event, and I'll go into detail with that. This is the fire button, right and left move, which I can't click on because it's not mouse click, it's virtual keys, which are substituted for the keyboard keys at the moment. Alright, so then that's why you have to have this script in here, so that way you can adjust these numbers here, because if you use the numbers in the draw event, you can use these numbers in the draw event for the virtual key to get it started. Then you have to adjust the numbers even more by making sure that you have the virtual key visible so you can see what you're doing. Because like I said, if you use these numbers here, 800 and 1472, let me show you what happens. 800 is the X coordinate, 1472 is the Y coordinate. Alright, and that is the correct coordinates. Now watch, it'll be off. It's not going to, and I was thinking it's going to be dead on because you're using the same coordinates, but it's not. See, now see how now it looks kind of thin. Well, not really thin, but it's way up here now. So if you use if you're on your Android device and you click on the button here, it's not going to do anything because it's way up here now. So, and I don't even remember what the coordinate was now. 800. 800 by. Nah, I don't know what the number was again. But then you just, after you're done putting the coordinates in, then you just put in 2 backslashes there to make them not visible. So once you have the coordinates in the right spot, then you won't see the virtual key anymore. I mean, it'll be there on the screen, of course, but be visible, not visible anyways. So, all right, and I'll put those numbers back later. Okay, and then the 400 and 400, that's the size of the button. Now the size of the button says width 400, height is 400, but that's not completely true with the virtual key. You have to adjust that too. So, like with the left button, see, if you can go smaller if you want on it. See, it shrinks the virtual key up a little bit on the X and Y coordinates. So it'll stretch it down here, and then it'll stretch it over here. So you guys gotta play with the size of the button by stretching it across X coordinate and then stretching it down Y coordinate. like I said, you can get it the size of the button that you put up there, but it's not going to mean that it's going to do it exactly. You have to adjust it even more, just to let you know. Alright, so, but now with virtual keys you can press 2 buttons at one time. Before, I was using the mouse click on all the buttons, and you were only able to do one press, and then you have to let go of the button and press another button. So in this case, you can press multiple buttons, and that's just like gameplay. You know what I'm saying? That's how you do it. Alright, so that's the first step, is you got to put this code in to make your keyboard become a virtual key on your Android device. And I've talked about that in my first video, but I didn't talk about this, of course. And see how this number here, this is L key, has to match this up here, L key. So whatever you type in here has to go in the virtual key show. So that way it will pop up on screen so you can see what you're doing. So these coordinates here are the size of the button. Then you got the X and Y coordinates right here. And then you make your, whatever you want your keyboard key to be, make sure it's in this location. Alright, now we're talking about the draw event. The draw event, you need this draw event in here to make sure that your buttons do not shift when you're moving on screen. When your camera view is following the player, you have to have the draw event in here so it does not shift. And the coordinates are 200 X view, 1472 by Y view. Then you also need the GUI, the graphic user interface, which is in the add event here under the draw event. You need that in there as well to make this happen. So basically this is like resizing. This is resizing your virtual key. So if you don't have this in here, your virtual key is going to look weird. So if I just take this out, let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about. Now I didn't really resize it too badly. It kind of resized it a little bit. I would just leave it in there. I would just leave the GUI in there just in case, because it could potentially resize your virtual key. And like I said, you have to use the X, the Y, the W view and the H view. This has to kind of match your draw event here, because this uses the views right here as well, so it has to match in the GUI. Because there is another code online that deals with set the GUI size, but they don't use the W view or the H view. They use a different type of coding, and you got to make sure this matches the information that you use on the draw event. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Then you set your keyboard. So you go to add event and you click on the keyboard press and you do the keyboard release, and then I put in the object player, and then he's gonna move to the left. So the object player doesn't move at first, but then when you press the keyboard down, he's going to move right, and so he goes 25 speeds right. And then when you let go of the keyboard, or your virtual key or your keyboard, then he's going to change object move to left to object player, and you say perform event yes, and that's it. And then you have a power move here where you press the power button and he's gonna blink. So you have a timer in there, 20 milliseconds, and then he's going to go back to object player. So, and the fire button, it's the same setup. So you have a room start, Then you have your code where you want the position of the virtual key to be added. Make sure you make this visible. See, F key matches F key for fire. And then you have to mess with these coordinates here and the size of the button, just like I talked about in the first button. And then I assign this one V key underscore enter. And then you have an enter button. I don't have a release on this one. It wasn't necessary to have a release. Then you have your coordinates here for GUI. And then you also have your coordinates for the draw event. Alright. And that's basically it. Like I said, virtual keys took a while to understand. Now, okay, so now the pause button. So we're using the left press event for the pause button. So you go to add event, you go to mouse, go to left press. No other buttons will work. Right press won't work. Middle press won't work. You have to use left press, otherwise it won't work on your Android device. These buttons won't work either, so left press only. And if you do multiple buttons, you can use left press on all the buttons for your device, for your mouse clicks. That's fine. You just can't use any of the other buttons. They won't work on your Android device. I've already tried it. Alright, so you use left press, then you grab a coded sheet from the control tab, then you're going to say global.my room equals room underscore persistent equals true, room underscore goes to room 1. I already talked about pause in the previous videos. So basically this is going to go to another room, and then you can click on the resume button and go back to the same spot you was in the original, and when you press the button the first time around in the pause. So you need this left press event for your mouse click, and see with the mouse click you don't need the draw event in there. You just need you need the draw event, but you don't need the GUI. So instead of the virtual key, you have a step event. So the step event uses X views and Y views. So this step event's needed so that way, if you only had the step view in there and you didn't have the draw event, it would jerk back and forth when you go through the camera view. When you move your character, the button would jerk a little bit. So you need the step event so that way you're able to click on the screen, because if you only have the draw event in there, you would not make the button clickable. So you have to have the step event in there for it just to work for the object, for you able to click on the button. Then you have the draw event in there, and then you have this X view and Y view. So the step event is kind of like the virtual button. You know, if you don't have this in here, you're not gonna be able to press on the key, the button. And like I said, I couldn't use virtual keys for this pause event because it would not work correctly. It would just blink on the screen. It wouldn't let you go to the next room. It wouldn't pause or nothing. So you have to make the pause a left press event. Alright, so like I said, it's using the same information as the virtual keys for the draw event, but you're not using the room start, you're using the step event instead. And then when you go into the pause room, you have a back key which is going to basically resume. So you have the step event, position is it exactly where you want it on the screen. You use those coordinates for your draw event. And then when you press the left press mouse event, it's going to go back to your room that you was in originally in the same spot. So this is what that tag does. So is this a pause event? It's just going to pause it, and then you can resume it. And that's it. And you have object exit, which I've talked about. You use a step event, and then you're going to have this code right here to basically press the back key on your phone device to exit the game, so it doesn't keep playing in the background. I've talked about that in my previous video as well. The V key backspace will basically, like I said, you can press that on your phone and it will the back key anyways, and it would exit the game. Alright, and this is just a blinking animation just to show that he's moving on the screen. And that's pretty much it. So this virtual key was a headache. It really was, but now I got it to work, and now you guys can make your games, make it more easier for the people that play the game. And I will put this this example on YouTube so you can download it and mess around with it. And I will be resuming Fake 3D for GameMaker 8.1, my next video. Thanks for watching.